Dan Illman and MikeBeer, race number 10 at Tampa Bay on Sam F. Davis Saturday, might be the best betting race of all the stakes races on the card. Let's throw up the field for the Grade 3 Tampa Bay Stakes. We're going 1 1/16 on the turf. $175,000 is the purse. This is an evenly matched group.
It really is. I think there are a lot of different horses who can win here, and you also have the the added advantage if you like somebody from off the pace. It feels like there's a lot of speed in here.
Perfect segue. Timeform US agrees with your assessment. It is a red bar situation, which means there is expected to be a fast pace. And up and on the lead, Renaissance Frolic, who can rate but has also been good on the lead and the Real Speed. I think Real Story's making the front.
I do too. Listen, I wouldn't be surprised if Renaissance Frolic just came out of there running, because that seems like how he's picked up his game lately, by just using his speed. But boy, that Real Story's a fast horse. 3 Admiralty Pier's shown a little bit of speed in the past. It should be solid up front, and that could set things up for March to the Arch. This is a graded stakes winner, only beaten a length in the Grade 1 Shadwell Turf Mile to close out his 4-year-old campaign. Mark Casse found a nice spot to kick off his 2020 year. It was in the Sunshine Millions turf. We're going to watch that race right now. This horse is 4 wide on the backstretch, 5 wide turning into the stretch. Mikey still has a lot of work to do. Yeah, he had some ground to cover here in the stretch. I like the way that he lengthens out here, though, Dan. This feels like a perfect prep race for this horse. He got to run the last 1/4 of a mile, and he's really going to come home strongly here to tag this horse on the lead right outside the wire. He went on after that to gallop out well in front. I thought that was a perfect return race for a horse who, all in all, he had a really good 4-year-old year last year.
And he really didn't have a lot of pace, and he was wide up against that slow pace. He was, I thought, much the best. The head doesn't really tell all the story at the end of that race, and he's going to get the right set. To me, he just looks like one of those closing middle-distance horses. You give him some pace, he's going to run. He's a live contender in here. The number 2 is Devamani. This horse popped a 96 Beyer speed figure the last time he was on turf. He beat 4 next-out winners in that race. One of them, Instilled Regard, came back to win the Fort Lauderdale with a 97 Beyer, then ran 3rd in the Pegasus World Cup Turf with a 102. Devamani's 26-1 this day, and he also got a great trip and ride by Jose Lezcano. He found the pocket, he's shooting up the inside, and he holds firm in the end. 96 Beyer, beat 4 next-out winners, legitimizes the fig.
Doesn't get any better than this as far as trips go, though. Just sat in behind, right up the inside in the stretch. It looks like he's going to win it clear here, Dan, as they get down to the 16th pole, but he's going to get a little desperate. He's going to hold on at the end here. I don't know what to say. When he first got over here for West Point and Clement, I'll admit to being a fan of his. I don't think he ever really panned out the way I thought he was going to. I know he's in Chad Brown's barn now, and maybe Chad will get him over the hump, but it feels like that's going to hurt his price too. I can't take this horse at anything, even an inch less than what he is on the line.
And he is 8-1 on the morning line, and he was offered for 62.5 that day. This will be his first race for Chad Brown. The 3 is Admiralty Pier. Admiralty Pier won an off-the-turf race last time out with an 89 Beyer speed figure. Don't be fooled by that. He ran a good 5th in this race last year, only beaten a length, 98 Beyer speed figure. For me, though, he's always been kind of a close but no cigar kind of horse in the big races.
He really has. Listen, I've been a fan of his for a long time. It just feels like he can't quite get there in races like this. I still like him. I still think there's a chance he could get a piece of this race at a pretty big price, but he's hard to take on top.
And while Timeform US does have him close to the pace, it is worth noting that he can rate and sit. He is adaptable. It'll be very interesting to see how the jock rides Admiralty Pier going into the first turn. Caribou Club had a nice year last year, graded stakes winner at Laurel, going 1 mile. He ran the Artie Schiller Stakes last time out, and Fear God Lynch gave him a great ride. Let's watch that race right now. He's in behind the lead in the orange silks, white blinkers. There's the same Mike. He's going to split it. It looks like he's on his way to victory, but Curlin's Honor for Mark Casse just comes flying up the rail under Joel Rosario. I guess this is kind of a disappointing loss for Caribou Club, although he ran his usual rock-solid race.
He did. I mean, listen, he ran fine in here. The trip just worked out so well. I do think it was a little bit of a disappointing loss, but he's well clear in second. I guess he just ran his race there and got outrun by a pretty sharp horse who, listen, maybe at the end of the day, it was Curlin's Honor who got the best trip in the race, making the last run. I don't know if I really look at the race that way, but I suppose it's possible. I don't know. He can obviously win. He's got figures on his side. I can't say I'm a huge fan of this horse.
The worst problem is the value standpoint.
I agree.
Because he's 5-2 on the morning line. It's going to be real close. I'm not even sure who the favorite's going to be. It's wide open in here. I think 7-2 would be fair on Caribou Club, and then I'd become a lot more interested. That Artie Schiller race Hasn't come back very strong just yet, but this is a horse that just seems to fire every time.
Yeah.
Renaissance Frolic has been a bit of a revelation. I mean, we're going to go back to his race at Kentucky Downs, and this is the race that kind of kicked off his streak. He's on the lead, and he's going to get run down for a 62.5 tag. He's a big price in this race, but after this race, he went on a roll. 3 consecutive wins, including a 98 Beyer effort at Churchill.
Yeah, I mean, he did feel like he took a step forward. Maybe it's just a long stretch that gets to him here at Kentucky Downs. He can't hold this lead. I can't say I was thrilled with this performance, but he did seem to get better after this, and he is a horse who has a lot of speed, but he doesn't need the lead. So if somebody else is on ascendant here, I guess he can sit. And it is worth noting he's switching to a red-hot trainer in here. That's something to take note of. I'm not buying into it just yet, Dan, as he steps up in class, but maybe he's just really headed the right way right now.
I've always been a fan of this horse. As you mentioned, you got to respect the fact he's with Saffie Joseph, but I do wonder if his recent string was simply because David Fawkes just kept finding the right spot for him. I've never considered him a true graded stakes kind of horse, and if he's got to deal with some serious speed in here, he could be in trouble. But again, you're getting 15-1 on Gallardo and Saffie Joseph. Halliday is the 6th for Todd Pletcher, and I guess he still has a little bit of upside potential. This will only be his 10th lifetime start. He has never been off the board in his career. Great ride by Johnny V in the Tropical Park Derby last time out. This race restricted to 3-year-olds. Now, a Giant Longshot outbroke this horse but didn't want the lead, so Johnny V's like, I'm just going to brush to the top, go 49-3 to the half, and you see Halliday gets a little goofy with his lead changes in the stretch. 95 Beyer is something that has to be respected, but he's not getting this trip in this race.
Yeah, that trip's not available to him here. We'll see if he can do it another way. He did close ground 2 starts back at Aqueduct when he finished 3rd. I don't know, Dan. I'm not a big fan of this horse. Maybe I understand he's still got upside for a very good trainer. I'm just not a big fan.
Yeah, I always have to respect Hembry. Very underrated 2019. He only won once. That was the El Prado at Gulfstream, but he came close on a lot of occasions. And when he got beat by Got Stormy in the 4-star Dave handicap, I know the running line doesn't look like much. He was just completely out-sprinted in that race. But I thought he did his best and earned that 100 Beyer speed figure. In the Tourist Mile last time out, this was a race where he's kind of in and among horses, and as they turn into the stretch, he has a lot of work to do, does Hembry. He's in between horses in the green silks, but you're going to note that once he gets a split in between, he comes with a really rock-solid 1/16 of a mile move, ends up down on the rail, only gets beat a length.
Yeah, he runs really well in this race. You saw him there at the top of the stretch, too. He tried to get to the outside of the clear, but first Premio, who finishes 3rd, was just right there and kept him locked in. Gaffalione had to go inside. Now you're going to see him dive all the way down to the rail. He's still got to look at this thing late. He's very game here. He just can't quite get there. And this is Hembry, man. This is what he did basically in every start last year. He's a closer. He's going to need pace and he's going to need a trip. But he feels like he just runs every time.
And the Michael Maker barn has been going great guns recently. You have to respect anything that barn puts on the track, and you have to respect Hembry. I mean, just look at the figs. He runs his race every time. Real story, I wonder if he can get to the front and somehow shrug off the other speeds. He has the talent to win this race, Mike. He was 2nd in the Tourist Mile. We saw him make the pace in there, and he actually still finished ahead of Hembry. They ran him in the Shadwell Turf Mile. He had post 14. That really hurt him. Joe Bravo had no choice. He had to send this horse. He got hooked up early, and he paid the price. I draw a line through that race. This time, Jesus Castanon's going to send him. Don't think they're thinking of rating. No. If he gets to the lead, he's dangerous.
Yeah, he is dangerous if he can make the front in this race. We'll see how fast he has to go. I was a fan of his last year. I think it's worth pointing out he was never going to win the Shadwell Turf Mile, especially after he drew post 14. But they did send him, and the horse that he was contesting the pace was Diamond Oops, who finished 2nd. This horse totally gave it up in the stretch and was nowhere, but I don't really feel like holding that race against him. If he makes the front in here, he's a horse that you want to take note of, because I think he's pretty talented.
My Barrelly, the number 9, is going to be a big price in this race, and occasionally he outruns his odds. Hawthorne Derby winner at 13-1, Mystic Lake Mile winner at 16-1. I thought he had his chance last time out in the River City, maybe in some minor traffic in the stretch that day, beaten 2 lengths in Mission Office, the 3rd place finisher, probably had a worse trip than he did. He came back to run 2nd in the Fort Lauderdale with a 96 Beyer. I guess the best thing is going for My Barrel. He likes Tampa Bay and he's going to get the right setup, but it's hard to argue that he's actually the best closer in this race.
He probably is, and he's going to be a huge price in this race. If you like him and you want to use him somewhere, be my guest. It feels like this is a tough spot for him.
Top pick time for the Grade 3 Tampa Bay Stakes. You like March to the Arch. You've always been a fan of this horse, and you saw him overcome a slow pace and a wide trip last time out. This time around, fast pace draws the rail.
I really did want closers in this race, and I didn't really want Caribou Club. I know you have him on top. You've always been a fan of Caribou Clubs. I'm not as big a fan as you are, especially if he's going to wind up being the favorite, although I don't know if that'll be the case. I like Mark Starks. I think he fits this race really well, and I wanted a closer.
I like Caribou Club's consistency. I like the fact that he can settle in mid-pack, has a little bit more tactical speed than March to the Arch. But to Mike's point, I've always liked him as more as the alternative, like a 5-1, 9-2 sort of moderate priced horse. If he's 5-2, all of a sudden, I'm probably looking elsewhere, and I'm probably looking at horses like Hembry, who I think is going to probably run this race. Hembry. We're both picking him second, and we're both going to use him. 1784 for Mike, 4756 for me. It's the Grade 3 Tampa Bay Stakes. It's a barn burner at Tampa Bay Downs on Sam F. Davis Saturday and has an approximate post of 4:59 Eastern. Best of luck.